When you don't take time to look at it through other people's eyes. Take some time and reflect on what you believe in your soul. Cause that is the key to life. You gotta let the negativity go.
Hi, What the Foxers. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. As a reminder, today's episode is sponsored by Therapy Appointment, an EMR that is a practical tool for starting, growing, and managing a practice.
Hello, and welcome to the What the Fox podcast with your two hosts, Lindsay Fox and Amber Ross. Here on What the Fox, we deconstruct social norms to build better lives. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering a topic that actually came up in one of our little fox holes in an earlier episode this season. So we are going to dive into adrenal fatigue.
That's right. We are talking about adrenal fatigue, and it's because we were talking about in one of our last episodes, we were talking about trauma and how it affects us on a cellular level. And as we were sort of talking about that, it was also holding space for the fact that trauma does not automatically equate to PTSD.
Right.
Not all individuals have even experienced trauma, but we've certainly experienced states of dysregulation or distress that can lead to feeling really uncomfortable. And frankly, Amber and I were kind of laughing about this topic of adrenal fatigue because I'm like, are we talking about this because we're exhausted?
I tell you, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It has been, so we laugh about this a little bit. It has been a wild week in the Ross house because I have Miss Hazel Grace, so my 6-year-old. Yeah, that's right, 6-year-old. I had a brain lapse for a minute. Is boundary pushing. So she's testing all of the boundaries. She's learning where the line is. She's learning kind of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And as a result, this week, we have had a lot of tension, a lot of very loud, angry voices, a lot of tantrums. And I reached out to Lindsay earlier in the week and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like,
Throw it in the towel.
I'm doing wrong. I'm throwing in the towel. Like, I'm raising the white flag because I could feel in my body, I'm like, oof. I have been on level 10 for too long with no break. And I'm like, I have hit my ceiling.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a nice way to bring us into what in the world is adrenal fatigue in the first place. Because, for the most part, most like low energy and tiredness are some of the most common reasons that patients end up seeking help from a doctor. And I think this is where when we get into adrenal fatigue, people are like, well, is that even like a real disease? And research would suggest most studies at this stage say, no, it's not a real disease, but I would say it's pretty valid because ultimately the adrenal fatigue theory suggests that prolonged exposure to stress could drain the adrenals, leading to a low cortisol state. Yes. And so the adrenal depletion itself causes brain fog, low energy, depressive mood, maybe some salt and sweet, sugary cravings, lightheadedness, and just vagueness of symptoms that no doctor can really pinpoint after a battery of tests, but rather than just say, hey, sounds like you're really stressed out.
That's my pet peeve. Like, please don't tell me I'm stressed out. I already know I'm stressed out. And like,
thank you,
I don't need
Obvious.
you. Yes, it is stressful for you to tell me that I'm stressed out. Thank you.
It's like telling someone who's like super stressed, just relax.
Oh my God.
Just relax. Right.
Yes, I cannot.
You know how helpful that is, right?
I actually did. I was watching something earlier this week. It goes in the same line of thought, so I'm not going too far off here. But when someone says just relax, a better alternative would be to say like wiggle your toes or wiggle your fingers or like move your body, because it takes that part of your brain and you start to focus on something that is not the stressor or the stressing. And I was like, you know what? I need to use that with my kids because we talk about taking deep breaths. And I've noticed Hazel gets very frustrated when I ask her to take a deep breath. So I'm learning. I'm like, okay, don't say that one. That one doesn't work for Hazel. So we need other ideas.
That might be the equivalent of telling her, just relax, telling a 6-year-old.
In her mind, Mom. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. She's like, screw you, mom.
Yeah, she's like, I'd like to punch you in the face. Thank you.
Yep. So, with that being said, there are 3 different stages of adrenal fatigue. And I'm actually going to reference an article by thesolutionIV.com about this because I kind of explored this with a coaching client who was just talking about just their overall exhaustion. They're just depleted, just straight out depleted, a lot of life stress. And the reason why I think it's important to bring this up is because the adrenal fatigue does occur in different stages, and we gradually get to that stage of complete exhaustion. It's just a matter of like, are you paying attention to your body? Are you listening to what your body needs? Are we hearing what our
Are we
body's
paying attention to the
communicating?
warning signs? And that's something that we talked about in my coaching community as well, because there's so many warning signs before your body breaks down. Usually,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that can't be accounted for, but in most cases, you had a warning like 3 to 6 months ago that you swept under the rug or didn't notice.
That's right. And actually, as we talk about this, it is just also maybe our listeners can think about the role of adrenal fatigue as it pertains to how the pandemic affected us and has it in terms just as a collective, and not to mention our healthcare providers, all the nurses, doctors, first responders, all of these people, and therapists. Hello, therapists. Don't forget about us. Is that, just the fact that there has been a high level of not just compassion fatigue, but adrenal fatigue, especially for our hospital workers who just were like on go, 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 go. So the first stage is really where our adrenal glands get triggered and there's a spike in the cortisol levels in our bloodstream. So that's just like the typical, ebbs and flows of just getting hit with adrenaline. But then as time goes on, the second stage is really when the production of some of our critical hormones end up getting impaired. And so this kind of throws off, throws off kilter other normal functions of our immune system that affect our metabolic rate. So this is when we might see things happen to our immune system, maybe like, when you're so exhausted, you just get sick, like you're just all of a sudden you just keep getting sick or whatever's.
Or you can't fight off that cold that you've had for 6 months. It's not, that's not typical.
Yep, absolutely. And so when this happens, within the second stage, at least, of adrenal fatigue, that's when there's a decrease in cortisol and DHEA levels. And so that's when we might be experiencing like recurrent infections or symptoms of like depression, insomnia, like that sleeplessness because you've got increased anxiety. Overall, your memory is impaired, just that brain fog that was mentioned earlier. So these are like the kind of warning signs for you to kind of say like, okay, what is my body communicating? But again, it's not like you need Captain Obvious to point out that you're stressed out.
Well, right. I think we all inherently know when we're stressed, like we recognize that it's going on, but we don't all take the time to do something about it. And part of that is sometimes it just feels like there's nothing that can be done. Right.
Yep.
And part of it is maybe we don't know what to do, or we don't have time or resources to do what we think needs to be done. So I mean, it's important.
Yes.
The resources, man, it's a struggle.
It is a struggle, particularly whenever we get into, 9+% inflation rate and money is tight and access to resources are far and few, depending on what type of vulnerable population you are, where you live. Supply chain management issues, access to certain things, just the list goes on. And so the more that we do carry on in that state of just chronic stress, that's when we kind of enter into phase 3 of this condition, where the adrenal glands become completely incapable of producing cortisol, while other hormonal imbalances are simultaneously taking place. So ultimately, that means that we're going to start suffering from chronic fatigue, which ultimately has that ripple effect of impairment in daily functioning. So our ability to execute like day-to-day activities and work-related tasks,
Not
and just
only
kind
that, it's where I see people start to make harming choices to their bodies, right? So if you are in that chronic fatigue, and I'm
yes.
talking from a nutrition standpoint, you're in that chronic fatigue, what's the first thing you reach for? Coffee. Make it a triple shot. Give me 4 of them. And like suddenly you've
Yep.
got 1,000 milligrams of caffeine in your system. And that further, it makes it harder for your body to rebound. It makes it harder for your body to escape that stress response
Mhm.
because now it's got a new attacker. Because, guys, we're not meant to have that much caffeine coursing through our bodies. I know that
Yeah.
it's been normalized, and I know like it's the trendy, like I'm going to shake my iced coffee, whatever. And
I love coffee.
listen, I do
Yeah.
too. But I
Yeah.
have been on a healing journey, and I went without coffee for, I think, 90 days. And the difference I saw in my body, my cognitive function, my stomach, like my ability to sleep, it was amazing. And I was only drinking like 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day. I was
Yeah.
not drinking double, triple espressos. So just
Yeah.
be aware of that. I know in the moment it's like, okay, this is what I need to get through the day, but it's also having trickle effects within your body that you may not realize.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I mean, I probably have like 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day as is, but when I can think of a period where I was getting into just that chronic fatigue space of that third stage of adrenal fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right, Amber. And I found myself getting I was trying to figure out that balance because I was like, yes, I need my coffee to function.
Yes.
But you know how there's the concentrated cold brew
The
coffee that
cold
you can
brew.
buy.
Yes. Yes. I'm well
So what
aware.
I yes. So I started to buy that, and instead
Mm-hmm.
of mixing it with water, I started to mix it with coconut water.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was like, all right, Lens, if you're gonna do this to yourself, at least try to make it a little bit a
Yeah.
little bit
Do a
rehydrating
little
in the
something.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
mhm. But you're right, because that's whenever, in terms of eating your meals and that sort of thing, where I know, I'm not, actually, my favorite meal of the day happens to be breakfast, and yet it's the one that I skip most frequently.
You are not alone. Actually, most people skip breakfast in the United States, and it has a lot to do with schedules. It has a lot to
Hmm.
do with this notion that, you have to eat small, less calories to be able to take up less space and, all of the diet culture nonsense.
Yes. But in the
But
same breath, to combat adrenal
yeah,
fatigue, one of the things that they recommend is actually to eat a meal within the first hour after waking up,
yep,
so
it
that you don't let
is.
your blood sugar levels drop and just kind of,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
you have to think, and we don't take time to think about it. And it's not going to be an aha moment, but you're asleep or you are in bed,
mhm.
4 to 8 hours a night. So that's 48 hours that you're 4 to 8, not 48. Gosh, that sounds nice right now. Um, but that's a long period of time where you're neither eating nor drinking. So your body slows down, it stops, processing everything and just it kind of stalls out a little bit. So you wake
Yeah.
up and then you have to rehydrate, you have to refuel because now you're up out of bed and you're asking your body to perform for you.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's just you end up completely exhausted, and then you're
Mhm.
wondering, how did I get here?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of answers to that question, and I don't want this to come off like you're doing it wrong, you're damaging your
Yeah.
body or any of those things. We're here to offer ideas and helpful tips and call out something that we see as an issue. And I'll be very honest, and we started the episode with this. Lindsay and I are both in a space right now where we are needing to be hyper aware of the fact that we are seeing adrenal fatigue issues or adrenal um, warning signs in our lives, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me personally, I mean, for you, yes, you've had a lot happening going on, and like you
Yeah.
said, in the Ross household. I don't want to say we though yet, in the
Okay,
sense that
me.
I'm certainly tired like I'm tired with certain things, in the sense of I'm just trying to get certain things balanced with my schedule and that sort of thing. But I feel like I'm approaching like stage 1, I would say. rather, I'm not in a stage 2 or stage 3 because I've
Yeah.
certainly been in those spaces, but like my sleep is good. My eating habits are, hit or miss depending on the day in
Yeah.
terms of that salty, sweet stuff. But I stay pretty on top of that. But for the most part, I would say something that I'm more aware of. So, in terms of like combating that adrenal fatigue or kind of preventing myself from entering that space, the role of exercise is
Mm.
something that I have to be really mindful about because it's in these kind of moments I might want to continue with my routine of doing a higher impact exercise. Whereas if I can feel that I'm on that cuspiness of entering into that first stage, I need to say no to high impact exercise. I have,
Absolutely.
like, I just can't do that. So if that means like giving myself permission to just like sit in a space of just doing yoga, or just if I can stretch for the day and that's all I do, then so be it. It's really about making sure I'm calming my nervous system, not
Yeah.
adding more to it.
Well, and it's not, I want to take out the if that's all I do. If you do those things, right?
At all. Yeah.
We're not going to
Yeah.
diminish those things because that is taking care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, and understanding what you need in that moment.
Good
And
call,
I
Amber. Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Good call.
I see this so often in my coaching clients because one of the first programs that we typically talk about or look at, depending on where a person is starting from, is mobility work and yoga and Pilates and things that are a little lower impact, but have great benefits from like a wide spectrum of reasons, right?
Hmm.
And I often hear folks say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so far past yoga. Like that's just calm and like that's not enough for me. That's not hard work." And I'm like, "Okay,
Right.
clearly you have not done all the yoga classes because I have been in yoga classes where I thought that I might have seen stars, just depending on what type of yoga you're participating in."
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And also, like, you can't diminish an entire type of workout because it doesn't hurt. Like, we don't have to work out to a point where we're in pain for it to
Yeah.
mean something. And I think that's something that has to go away.
Yeah. I'm, yes, 100% on that, actually. Just because I can think of so many different times where it's like we tell ourselves, oh yeah, if I just like go in and do that run or that high, that cardio exercise, or if I lift all those weights, then that's going to kind of fix and be my stress reliever. And while it's true that exercise is a wonderful
Yeah,
stress reliever, we have to remember that to a certain degree, it also adds more stress on the body if you're kind of like past that point of no return and you need to, like,
absolutely.
frankly, chill out.
Well, and I see it with myself. And it's something that I've worked on very hard over the last year because I used to be the person that's like, okay, I need to go lift something really heavy just to work through whatever it is going on in my
Hmm.
mind right now. Where in
Yeah.
that moment, if I had chosen instead to meditate or do yoga, I could have actually worked through the problem instead of just ignoring it and finding a new problem.
Interesting. Thanks,
Weird, right?
Amber. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but you're bringing up a great point because you're right. It perceivably is a lot easier to just go work out rather than
Mhm.
deal with whatever the underpinning
It
issue
goes,
is, I guess.
it's symptom management, right? Instead of getting
Hmm.
at the root cause, we're going back to symptom management because that's
Yeah.
like the first line of defense always.
Sure. And again, exercise is wonderful for stress management and
Yes.
relief. And so is just saying, yes to some fresh air. So
Yes.
you don't necessarily have to go exhaust your body even more than it already is in the process, which I do want to be kind of mindful in identifying. I know that we kind of mentioned like depressed mood or signs and
Hmm.
symptoms of depression can be one of the warning signs, or something that one might notice,
Yeah.
especially entering to like phase 2. But I think it's important to say like these kind of like tips, tricks, and life hacks that we're referencing in terms of combating adrenal fatigue, while they might prove to be like a holistic remedy to support you in getting out of like a depressed mood state, it is certainly under no circumstances designed to be therapeutic advice to treat depression or major depression disorder. So I
Yes.
just want to make sure that we're inserting a little clause there and saying this is not us providing therapy or
No,
replacement
not at all.
therapy recommendation in any capacity.
Right. This is us sharing tips and ideas to help give you a fighting chance, and set yourself up for success, right? Not
As a whole.
as a
Yes.
whole. Yes. Well, and that actually feeds into kind of where I was thinking, with adrenal fatigue, because when you're in it, we've talked about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and sort of what that looks like. But I'm sure that there are folks who are listening thinking, okay, but if I'm in none of those places and I don't want to get to those places, what can I do now to give myself a good chance, or to check in, or to, prevent even getting to that first red flag, if that makes sense?
Yes. And honestly, I think that can just come with establishing a really good routine for yourself from the get-go. So even if that means like taking B vitamins so that you can help balance your hormones and reverse symptoms of adrenal fatigue in the body, when you feel that onset coming on, or making B vitamins just a part of like your daily nutritional habits of eating foods with it.
Yes. I was going to say, going to the whole food approach of like, making sure that you have plenty of foods that are rich in good nutritional
value.
aspects.
What like protein, B vitamins, magnesium. Would you like to share why these things are important?
Well, it's important. Yes, I would, because nutrition is like my jam. But
right.
What I have found over the years is we tend to turn to fast, easy fixes. We tend to turn to things that when we are stressed, one of the first things to go is cooking a nutritious meal, or, spending time outside in the sun, or, we turn to vitamins. And while supplements and vitamins absolutely have their place, our bodies absorb better from the whole food. And fortunately, unfortunately, like, you do have to supplement, because the stuff we have access to is not as nutritious as it was, 10, 15, 20, 100 years ago.
And a lot of food is processed as well. When we think about the reality of adrenal fatigue, is likely that you're task saturated and cannot think straight, and you don't have the time to do all the things. So you're probably going to be more inclined to, go straight to the processed foods, or get that sugar craving fix, as opposed to like pausing to do a nice healthy whole food meal.
But I think it's a common misconception, just from my perspective. I know there will be people who disagree. It is just as easy for me to grab fruits and vegetables out of my refrigerator as it is for me to grab something out of my pantry. And the more nutritious item is going to come from my refrigerator. So something I do, and it's helped the kids as well, when the groceries come in, like I'm thinking fruits and vegetables and things that require you to do some sort of process to consume them, right?
Yep.
I eat a ton of raw vegetables, but I wash them, pre-cut them, package them, put them in the fridge so that they are as easy to grab as any snack that's ever been made. Maybe easier, because some of those snacks are really hard to open. They're people proofed, man.
You would say that, but it's so true. It's setting yourself up for success ahead of time, so that it's not a reactive response to like, oh my gosh, I haven't had, like, I'm starving right now, or I just need something quick and easy, so I'm going to grab this over that. For me, I know that, and frankly, I can attribute this to all kinds of things, but I know as an individual who does have ADHD, I will definitely say that I have a tendency to just like want to grab the quick fix that's already available. But in the same breath, I actually love to cook. So this is where, the hyperfixation piece can work to my benefit, so long as I'm cooking something healthy. But I do like to keep certain things at hand, so that if I see it, then I know that I'll eat it. So for instance, if that salad or those fresh veggies or fruits are in a drawer in my fridge, I am not going to open I'm not going to, hello, this is why half of our food supply ends up in the trash can, is that I'm not going to eat it. I'm simply not. So what I do is like keep avocados available on the counter. So even if it's like a quick fix, I know that all I need to do is like grab a knife, cut that avocado in half, and I'm going to end up eating an avocado, sprinkling some of my favorite seasoning on it or whatever. And that's just like a quick snack. But it also fills my need for healthy fats and magnesium, and trying to keep my body regulated. And likewise, just what you're saying, preparing some of these things ahead of time so that you visually can see them. Like in the drawers, that's where I actually end up keeping like cheeses,
Yes.
breads, or any
Yes.
like this,
Absolutely.
because then I'm not as tempted. Whereas like
Yep.
if I keep the good stuff right in front of me, or put like, I know this seems like so different than what we've thought about, but there's like a refrigerator life hack type of thing of putting all of your sauces in the drawers and then putting the healthy stuff like produce and stuff in the shelves that are on their fridge drawer or fridge
I love that
door,
idea. Yeah.
so that you just like as soon as you open it, you naturally look to the right and
Those are the things you see.
yeah, so therefore you grab them. And so just little things like that can go a really long way in terms of
Absolutely.
tweaking the process just a little.
Well, and for folks who do love to cook, like I have seen the meals that you make are so much more intricate than the ones that I make. Like you spend, because you enjoy it so much, you
Mhm.
pick those longer recipes, you pick the more involved recipes, and you get really into the process.
It's because I
Whereas,
don't use recipes, period.
well, right. When I say recipe and
No,
Lindsay in the same sentence, they don't go together, but
no, this is kind of goes with our ongoing running joke is like Amber is so good and so organized, but then I'm kind of like, let's just throw a meal together with the kitchen sink. Like, let's see what we have and make something from it. But that's kind of like my creative expression for sure.
yes. And it's a
Yes.
great stress outlet. It's a great way to make food that you're going to enjoy. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's all around, that's a healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas me, like I'm more apt to set aside an hour and make a bunch of different things like mason jar salads so that they're ready to just like dump out and I can eat lots of fresh veggies
Hmm.
that I didn't have to do anything with when I'm stressed out at noon because I've been on the phone for like 7 hours already, right? Like
Yes. Yeah, which honestly, that's a great idea too. And even, the breakfast routine too, if you have like yogurt and granola and fruit already packed together in a container.
yeah.
I mean, it just kind of it sets you up for success. And so I think there is a lot of value added to like, enhancing your own accessibility within the house.
Yes.
And just visually stimulating yourself so that you'll be more inclined to grab it and you're not making
Yeah.
excuses to.
Well, and also understanding what works for your space, right? Because I think you were over here one day and you saw the berry bowl that's on the counter. And the berry bowl
Mhm.
is pretty much always there and it pretty much always has some sort of fruit that's accessible to the kids
Yeah.
because they come into the kitchen and they're suddenly starving and they need something right that minute. And I would prefer for them to grab a fruit or vegetable from that bowl than to go piddle around for snacks where, it's very similar to your methodology of leaving that avocado on the counter, but
Mhm.
my kids they aren't going to cut open an avocado. Hazel might, but Hudson probably not.
Agreed. Agreed.
I love it
So
though.
and one more thing I just want to make sure that we mention is the value, and I say this kind of like laughing because it's so simple. It's one of those things that's just so simple. It's like, oh, right, is drinking water, you guys.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Like and I say this because it is laughable because I'll find myself like, oh, well, maybe your brain fog is because you haven't had any water today and you've only had coffee. Like, wake up, Linz. Yeah, but we should be drinking half of our body weight in terms of our ounces of water per day. So, hello, guys. Are you doing that?
Well, and I want to do a caveat on the water, right? Because there's a mineral aspect to it. And there are some folks who have been advised because of like mineral deficiencies to not drink half their body weight in
Sure.
ounces of water. But for the majority of us, that is the case. So just like in real math, if you weigh 100 pounds, that's 50 ounces of water a day. Okay. It's imperative. And some of the things Lindsay, I shared with you earlier this week, I think, I struggle when the weather changes, when it gets cold. I have a very hard time drinking water because I am a cold natured person. I do not enjoy being cold, and I certainly do not want
Mm.
cold beverages. So I just don't think about it. So what I have done and transitioned to my like fall nutrition, my fall ideas, I have water that's room temperature beside my bed. So first thing I wake up in the morning, I have about 10 ounces of water before I make it like to the bathroom or anywhere else in my house because
Mhm.
I know that starts me off, and then I'm going to continue drinking water versus if I wait until, I make it to the kitchen or, I get the kids ready. I've gone several hours and haven't had anything to drink.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And I think overall, all of this is really just kind of touching on the value of taking care of yourself. That's what all of this is all about. I mean, I'm saying this because I get that it's so hokey. People are like, okay, like self-care, self-love is just one of those things where we constantly just put our needs on the back burner because we're too obsessively focused and fixated on the to-do list that needs to be done and all the other things that we need to take care of. And at its core, that is where burnout comes from. This is where that adrenal fatigue comes from. So at some point we have to stop and just say, whoa, look at what our body is communicating to us. If you're getting those faint headaches and brain fog, we have to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, have I even had any water today? Have I had a meal today? Am I taking care of myself? Because that's when those are your warning signs.
They are. And, I love a good to-do list. I love marking things off. That is my jam. I put these self-care items on my to-do list every day. So making sure I drink my water, that is like, I do, because otherwise it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
It's like everybody else's needs come first.
Mm-hmm.
So I remind myself, I set little alarms to stand up from my desk so that 8 hours don't go by and I haven't moved.
I love that about my watch. The Apple Watch does that. I love how it says, hey, it's been 50 minutes, stand up.
Yeah. Hey, why are you still sitting in one space? Thank you, Apple. We appreciate you.
Yeah. No, it's
but
absolutely
it's so important. It is not hokey to take care of yourself. It is not like the media, like social media has made it to where it's like, it's a trending thing and it's all about eating brownies and doing charcoal masks and, going to a spa day. But there's simple things we can do every single day that will take care of ourselves and help to stave off things like adrenal fatigue and, your body starting to work against you.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree.
Well, Lindsay, this has been a wonderful topic. It took only a couple of twists and turns. I thought
we did great. There was nothing to. I don't recall any twists and turns. I actually feel like this was the most on point episode.
Well, maybe the twist and turns stayed in my brain. Who knows? But I had a blast talking with you as always. I'm grateful for you and for season 2. And I'm just excited for these episodes to keep rolling out.
So am I. And just keep in mind, guys, as we are, getting closer and closer through all the holidays, keep these things kind of tucked in the back of your mind here and try to move them to the forefront and incorporating these reminders for yourself, because the holidays are stressful enough as it is. This is like the time of year where we do experience adrenal fatigue. So please take care of yourself and each other, but remember to put on your air mask first.
Definitely. Absolutely. Great advice, Lindsay.
Yes. All right, y'all. We will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
And we all sing, everything is gonna be just fine. It's gonna fall into place. The sun is gonna set on your terrible day.